My next guest is an undefeated mixed martial artist from Texas. He is the eighth ranked featherweight contender in Bellator MMA. Make sure you catch his next fight at Bellator 298 on August 11th. Mr. Lucas Brennan joins me today. Lucas, thank you so much for being here. I'm a big fan of you. I have been watching you fight for years. I love watching you fight. I'm glad we could do this.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it a lot. That's awesome.
I was hoping, first and foremost, that you could talk to me a little bit about Next Generation MMA. Anytime I get somebody from a gym that I haven't had on my show before, I immediately want to know what the culture is like at your gym and who are the folks with, who are your teammates. And I was hoping we could start there. Can you tell me a little bit about what Next Generation MMA is all about?
I mean, it's the gym, man. That gym's like more or less has been my home. I grew up there. It's not this particular location, but like it was the first no-gi only gym in the United States, right? Forever ago with my dad, who is the head coach there, right, for the fight team, for the jiu-jitsu guys, all of the above. And now, as I'm sure you're aware, there was some mishap last year with Glory MMA. So like our current striking coach is Austin Ford, who came down from there. Tim Elliott came down from there, lives with us right now, trains. Tons of great fighters here now, man. And really, for a long time, had a couple fighters and kind of had a couple of us that were training together and fighting. And we really, like, this last year or so, have built a fucking powerhouse down here. And a lot of good guys, handful of guys that I believe by the end of this year, early next year, you'll be seeing, either on cards with me or on Contender Series and things like that. And just, I don't know. The culture's been awesome. And the room's awesome. The energy's awesome. And very much welcoming to others. But, nah, man, I don't know. I appreciate that room a lot and those guys a lot. They make, they mean everything to me.
When I think of you, I think of MMA royalty because of your father. I knew who he was. He was a UFC veteran. He fought in Pride, and then you come along, and this is a sport that you've like grew up with. You've been doing this your entire life, and there are other jokers like me in the media that look at you and be like, I wonder if he's going to be as good as his dad, or what is this kid really all about, or he's only made his place in this sport because of his last name. And I think about all that stuff. You remind me in many ways of a guest I just had on my show. His name's Gabriel Braga. It was the exact same thing for him. He's
Mhm.
a Brazilian guy, and his father fought. And he did tell me, he's like, it's a blessing in a way, but it's also a curse. Like he's like, and you're not very relatable to a lot of people, and you kind of find yourself in a really weird spot. I was hoping I can ask you a little bit about that. Like, given like the impact that your father had on this sport, and he's like one of those like early pioneer types, and now you're this like next generation guy, and people expect you to like pick up the torch and go even further than he did. And is that kind of like a lot? Is that like a lot of pressure for you to have on your shoulders at like so early on in your MMA career?
Um, not. It's not incredibly too much pressure. I try not to think about it, to be honest. Like it's regardless of if that's something that people expect of me or not, I still have to deal with the guy. Like regardless. So it's I don't know. I put it off. I don't really think about it all that much. I know he thinks about it a lot, and I think it bugged him a lot for a long time. Where like he used to apologize to me. My first, they don't. It doesn't really happen anymore. But my first like three-ish, four-ish Bellator fights, I think they like introduced me. They were like Chris Brennan's son, so and so, right? But then I think by like the fourth event and on, he kept running into people who were like, "Oh, you're Lucas Brennan's dad," right? As opposed to the other way around. And so I think he was kind of like, "All right," like he's like, so I think it was bugging him for a long time more than it was bugging me because like I do this for me. It just so happens that he's that guy, right? So it's just it's not something I was like forced into, and I don't feel the need to follow, anything he did. And I don't know. It is very cool. There are pros to it. And really con wise, I just don't really it doesn't bug me all that much, and it's just cool.
very early on in your career, you've been like exposed to the inner workings of a major MMA promotion. You've rubbed shoulders with Scott Coker, like the brass over at Bellator for many years now. Are there other parts, other elements of MMA that you've seen that you've been exposed to that the fans at home or even people in the media wouldn't necessarily like understand? Like, what are some of the like key things that you've like been exposed to throughout your tenure in Bellator MMA?
I don't know. I've had a great relationship with them, man. It has been awesome too to have like my whole professional career has been with them. So you get to skip out on the like fighting somewhere that's kind of not great. You know,
Shaky.
yeah, sure, I get it, but like it's cool to kind of get to like, kind of pop by that part just a little bit, and kind of immediately hop into it. And I mean, takeaways, man. I don't know. I think people that don't fight, I don't know. I think they don't understand how difficult doing the shit is. But that's a whole other thing. Where it's just even just the week of being like not even the training, but how hectic the actual fight week is. Because the whole thing is like I need to figure out when I can work out. I have a photo shoot. They do the interviews on cut day, so like
That's rough.
so you're built like a skeleton, and they're trying to ask me questions, and you're like I can't dude, like dude. Last time they did the interviews 10 minutes after I was like on weight, and I just kind of like went like I asked the dude off screen. I was like, hey dude, like are you allowed to curse? And then I just like blew through. Like I did not have any sort of held back moment. I mean, as far as things people don't know, I don't know. I just think it's hectic. I think people don't understand how hard some of the shit is. Even just being a person and getting through that week, and then like the weight cut is always terrible, and just like I don't know. It's all very hectic, but I do very much appreciate like the time that I've been able to spend with Bellator as well, and getting to meet all those people, run into all those people, hang out, train, and even just the other fighters that you kind of bump into sometimes. You're like, oh shit, like I've been watching you since I was a kid. Like we're on the same card, shit. Like,
There's a lot of speculation about what's going on with Bellator MMA, and you're a person that's been with this promotion for a long time. And I know it becomes an awkward question because this isn't something that you can really fully talk about, and I can't really even fully ask it because I don't even really know all the facts. But I would just simply ask you this, like when you think about like your tenure with the promotion to date, and then you start hearing about all this news, like in a way, do you almost kind of feel like at this juncture in your career, it's like, okay, well, now I have to potentially prepare myself to kind of put on an audition because I don't know what the future holds. I don't really know what's going on, but one way or the other, it's like I need to make sure that I'm shit hot. I look great. So if there's another promotion out there, like I'm on their radar. Is that kind of more or less where you are at this point in time?
I mean, I'm not really thinking of it, as I guess an audition. I get the idea there, but
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm in a position where, say something does happen, and that is something I have to look into. I think I'm in a good enough spot where I'm not gonna be fighting for my life to get to any of those particular places, and I'm pretty confident in that. Following this next weekend, I'm going to be in a good spot regardless. But yeah, that like it is annoying to hear, and yeah, especially because not everybody knows anything, and they don't tell me a whole lot, and you hear different shit. I hear different shit every day,
Sure.
and I know that 99% of it is like, and so it's just like you just kind of have to like wait and see, because I'll ask somebody and they'll kind of be like, "Oh, nothing's happening." Then you'll ask somebody else and they're like, "Ah," and they'll freak out, and it's just like it's just a whole mess. And then like there was that weird like 2 day skid where people were posting photoshopped. They're like, "Did you see that Pitbull signed to the UFC?" And you're like, "Shut the fuck up." Not even like it's just so weird, and I don't know. It got to a point where now it's like clickbaity, and everyone's just like did you see this? Did you see this? You're like, you didn't even spell it right. Like it's clearly wrong. So it's just I don't know. It's a very strange spot to be in, and people ask me about it a lot, and
Mm.
I'm like, man, I'm like
I know probably
realistic.
less than you do.
Realistically, I'm an employee. Like, I'm not informed of this. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I've got more to deal with this coming weekend, and as far as the grand scheme of things, that might be bigger, but I'd rather deal with that later, and just deal with what I got ahead of me. And then, whatever happens, happens. I'll deal with that later.
Well, thank you for entertaining the awkward question. I had to ask you, or else the comment section would have been on fire. So there we are. We got that out of the way. I wanted to talk about your most recent performance. It was a textbook Lucas Brennan fight. Like, you did exactly what it is that I expect you to do every time you go out there. You're able to get these fights to the ground. People can't grapple with you. You figure out a way very, very quickly to find these finishes. I think about you. I think about first round submission finishes every time, and that's exactly what you've managed to do. And the question I have for you is: you're an undefeated fighter. You've found amazing success. You're choking these guys out in the first round, and you've done this for years. And some people, they start getting like a really big ego after they get all this success. They become difficult to coach, they become difficult to talk to. What is it about you? Like, how are you staying hungry? How are you staying coachable? And how do you continue to evolve and improve when you're getting all the results that you want in the cage? Sometimes people need to have adversity in the cage in order to like hit that next level. You seem to be doing that regardless.
I am getting the results that I want, right? Clearly I'm not complaining about how fights have been panning out. But I've gone into all of them expecting heavy adversity. This is the first time I've fought anybody with the same amount of fights as me this coming weekend. Otherwise, everybody I've ever fought has more fights and more wins than me and more experience than me. So I've always gone into it assuming that I'm gonna get into a fucking war the whole time. I just haven't, which is nice. I like save my brain cells. I've been I've been punched five times in 8 fights. Like I like retaining, what I got going on up here. So, but I don't know. I haven't really gotten a big head about it, and I try not to, because I know I'm gonna come back to the gym and beat the shit and get the shit beat out of me by all my guys. So like it doesn't, um, yeah, I just haven't. Like I don't know if I have a necessary method for like why it hasn't or why I didn't turn into a douchebag. I don't know. I just never really saw it that way, and like I can wrap my head around the fact that I am at a point where I've won now a number of fights in a row and I'm doing great, but I still make a good attempt to go into all my fights somewhat humbly, and afterwards there's cool confidence winning, right? It's always great, but I think there's also a lot of relief in winning. Like it's a lot of just like fuck, like thank God, like all right, that's done. Like I think there's as cool as it is, it also takes a lot of weight off of you. So I don't know. It's humbling, winning as well.
I can understand that. Bellator 298, you're going to be going up against a very difficult opponent. His name's Weber Almeida. I hope I said his name right. If I didn't, my bad. But in any event, a very high level guy, a dangerous man. He was experienced a lot of success in the Bellator cage. I think of him, I think of striking right away. I think of finishes. Can you tell me a little bit, Lucas, like how did this matchup come together? Was this a fight that you had wanted, or is this something that Bellator asked you about? How did this whole match get arranged?
He was someone I didn't particularly call out, but I'd kind of mentioned in passing, when they were kind of like, who are we looking at after my last guy, and it was kind of like, oh, like Weber would be great, a couple others. And Weber was just kind of the guy that came about, and but I'd watched him fight before, solid, real solid dude, good striking. We have a similar opponent in Johnny Soto, who is his only loss, but was a super tough fight. And yeah, I mean, like I think he's real solid, and even though striking, I think is what comes to mind, right? He's clearly a very, he's out of Team Machida, right? He's very clearly a karate style kickboxer. But I mean, it's tough. Like unorthodox, but tough wrestling, decent jiu-jitsu. Like he's, all around, I think he's going to be tough and fun. Probably going to be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to the matchup in particular. And when I found out about it, I was like, okay, well, stylistically, that's a very interesting matchup. I think about you and I think about grappling. I think about jujitsu. I think about him. I think about striking right away. And I'm like, okay, wow, that's definitely an interesting fight stylistically. So you're going up against this guy. You're putting your eighth ranking on the line in order to take this fight. I think that's really cool. And then there's also one of these elements where it's like, this is the most, I would say, this is like your highest level opponent that you've faced in your career to date. Is that something that you would mostly agree with?
Yeah, I'd agree. For sure. And he's definitely, the most dangerous, I'd say, out of, everyone that I fought previously. I think with that being said, he's probably gonna have the exact same game plan that everybody else had.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel my game plan is not a secret.
It's not.
So, but one or two fights, I was able to be like, no, there's very clearly a game plan, and so I think it kind of gives his away in the fact that, like, I know that his game plan is what everybody else's was, which is don't wrestle,
Mhm.
strike. Um, and I've gone away with not having to display too much striking, which has been a lot of fun because every camp my striking has improved tremendously, and I haven't really had to show any of it. So, but by the time I actually have to, I think it'll be nice and surprising for everybody but me. But yeah, no, I think he's going to be a lot of fun and definitely my most dangerous opponent, and I respect him a lot. And I think we'll have fun.
A couple final questions for you, and it's simply this: a win over this guy that would be a huge feather in your cap. And with that being said, I'm not suggesting you're looking past this guy or you've even really remotely thought about it, but you get this win, you continue the undefeated streak. Like, where does that like kind of like put you in terms of like what makes sense for you moving forward?
Um, I mean, as far as forward, I'm not I'm not rushing anything as far as maybe like climbing rankings and such things kind of go, like as cool as it is to be ranked where I'm at, right? I do have 8 fights,
Yeah.
right? So I think like one of my buddies had mentioned something that like he's not ranked and I'm ranked, whatever. And I was like, I don't really care. Like, regardless, I think he's just as tough as the couple guys before me in the rankings, like he's, and regardless of if there's a number next to him or not, I have to respect him the same. And I kind of feel the same way moving forward. Like whether the guy I have after this is a ranked opponent or not, I'm cool. Like I'm cool fighting in general. Regardless, I'm gonna get paid the same. Regardless, it's experience on my record, and regardless, it's gonna move my career forward one way or another, right? So I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, I haven't really looked much further past him at the moment, and I don't really expect my ranking to change only because they literally just moved me because of the and like on a technicality, but I'll take it. Like AJ hasn't fought at featherweight in I don't know how long, and he'd been kind of sitting in that like number 5 spot for a long time, and so they moved him, and everybody slid up. So it's like with we already haven't moved now, I doubt it'll change anything after this one. They kind of precursored it. But no, I mean, I just think I'm going to be in a great spot to continue what I've been doing and, continue fighting.
If all goes according to plan in Sioux Falls, am I out of line in saying there's a possibility we could see you again before 2024, or are you after this fight just kind of looking to 2024?
I'd like to get one more in, assuming my body's great, like I actually had a relatively injury-free camp, which doesn't happen a lot. Knock on wood them. But I've been pretty healthy and yeah, getting through this weekend, assuming I'm good and my body's healthy, I'd like to get one more in before the end of the year. For sure, for sure. And probably real close to the end of the year because I will take I'll take a short little period to eat some shitty food and enjoy myself for a minute, and then bring the abs back and get going.
Well, I think if there's anyone that's deserving of some Tex-Mex, it would be you, sir. I had one kind of final question for you, and feel free to rant about it if you'd like, because some people do, and that's okay.
I don't
Jake
know how not to.
Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz, right? That's happening in Dallas, a few miles up the road from you. So Jake Paul in particular, polarizing guy. A lot of people like what he's about. Some of the messages that he has about the MMA community and then fighters, etc. Then there are other people that are like, this guy is like terrible. I don't like him. I want to beat him up. Your thoughts on Jake Paul, like as a personality and what he means to combat sports? Are you in one camp or the other? Is he like a good thing for the sport, or is he kind of a detracting freak show that you are annoyed by?
Um, fuck.
Or is it
I
a little bit of both, maybe? I think that's a valid answer too.
say not that I'm indifferent, but I see pros and cons because I see the things he says about like fighter pay and whatnot. And I think it's weird that he says that because he's not an MMA fighter. So
Right.
it's kind of, yeah, it's like if I spoke out about NFL pay, you'd be like, shut the fuck up. Like, what are you talking about? But he's right. But like, he also makes good points. But as a person, they're just so fucking weird, man. I don't know. And like, I don't find, I don't know. I don't find him to be a talented fighter
Mm-hmm.
or a boxer. He's done well.
Right.
He is he's a like YouTube personality.
Sure.
But and if you want to look at the YouTube boxers, which I've unfortunately watched some of, he'd be the best one.
Sure.
But I would compare him to like fucking Terence Crawford or like any of those guys. So I don't know. I they're strange. They're strange. They have redeeming moments sometimes, and I'm like, that was a decent thing you said, and then I just see one clip on TikTok or something. Man, fuck, you just ruined my whole. I was really starting to like. I don't know. They're a strange bunch. Him and his brother. Which one? It's Jake that's fighting, right?
Jake
I
is
confuse
fighting.
the two a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. One of that. I don't know. I wish. I wish Diaz was strange. I feel like he's not gonna win because who knows? But
So am I off base in saying like so for me, I put like $10 on Diaz. I was like, why not? I'll throw $10 on him. We'll see what happens. But I do believe what we're about to see tonight it's going to be very similar to when he fought Leon Edwards. I think he's gonna clown around the entire time. And I feel like Paul's going to get the better of the exchanges, and then he'll lose by like split decision, and then he'll say he really won, and then that'll be that.
yeah, I don't. They frustrate the shit out of me too, though. The Diaz, and so it's like I don't even. It's almost like watching two people fight that you really don't give a fuck about at all. You're just like you both. I hope they both get knocked out at the same time and fall. Like this,
Hey,
and like they're they're good MMA boxers, Nick and Nate. But I don't. I just don't know, like in an actual boxing setting, how they'd be. And their boxing is so strange and like slow almost. Like, but it's slow to where like, and one of my buddies who I train with every day is really good at this. But it's slow to the point where like he's thrown it. I have already slipped it and came back and then it lands. Like it's like it is so slow and the shit lands every time. I'm like, I don't know. They're a confusing bunch to me. And just like I don't know. I'm not going to it, but I'm gonna probably get text updates from some guys about it.
one final question, and it's simply this: Alexander Volkanovski. We're going to keep it in your weight class here. Is he the best featherweight fighter in the world, in your opinion?
Yeah, yeah. I love Max Holloway.
Mm-hmm.
I love Max Holloway. He's dope. I just fucking wish he'd beat Volkanovski. That way I could say that he was the answer. But he's not. It's
Right.
definitely Volkanovski just looks awesome in every fight. Like he's looked great. And even like I think he beat Islam. Like I just
I
he's
thought that too. I thought he beat Islam. Everyone thought I was on the cocaine
and
when I said that, but
and I don't dislike Islam.
yeah.
I, I just think he won. I think with his back taken, he was outstriking him. Like I just think he looked great the whole time. Couldn't stop some takedowns. That's not super surprising, you know. But even with that, yeah, I don't know. I just Volkanovski is definitely my answer. I just think that fight in particular frustrated the shit out of me.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. Lucas Brennan versus Alexander Volkanovski. That'll be happening very, very soon. Luke, I want to give you the final word, sir. Appreciate your time this morning. It's been a real treat to have you on the show. If there's anyone that you'd like to thank before I let you go, or anything that you'd like to say to all your supporters, the mic is yours, sir.
Man, just my family and my team. You know, everyone's really come together to help make my camps go through smoothly and everything work out just fine. And my team this year has been nothing but supportive and fantastic. And no, not too much to say. Just, you know, I got a job to do. I'll be back home in a week, and I'm stoked.
Well, I'm looking forward to watching you perform here next week. Thank you for doing this, sir, and I hope to have you back in the near future.